The morning sunlight crept through the blinds, painting the walls with streaks of gold, yet I felt none of the warmth it promised. Today was supposed to be the culmination of a lifelong dream, my federal judge swearing in. I had imagined it for years, the excitement, the pride, the presence of my parents in the front row, their eyes glistening, their applause echoing through the grand courtroom. But as I sat on the edge of my bed, dressed meticulously in my judicial robe, staring at my phone, I felt a sinking realization. The messages I had expected from my parents were absent. The calls that should have started with "we're so proud of you" never came. I had dreamed of this day since I first imagined a courtroom as a child. Watching shows and stories about justice and integrity, I had studied tirelessly, sacrificed countless hours with friends and social life, and faced challenges that had tested the limits of my endurance. Late nights of reading case laws, preparing for exams, writing legal papers, arguing mock trials, it had all led to this moment. And yet, now, as I prepared to walk into the courthouse alone, a strange emptiness settled in my chest. The taxi ride felt surreal. The streets of the city blurred past as I kept rehearsing what I would say, the expressions I would hold, the confidence I wanted to exude. Inside, my mind replayed every past moment when my parents had missed milestones, birthdays, graduations, performances. The sting of absence, though familiar, had never felt heavier than it did today. I tried to convince myself that this was not important, that this achievement belonged to me and me alone. But human hearts are not logic-bound, and a part of me longed for their presence. When I stepped into the courthouse, its grandeur hit me with a force I had imagined, but never truly felt. Marble floors, soaring ceilings, portraits of esteemed judges looking down as if silently acknowledging the gravity of the moment. The courtroom was filled with colleagues, mentors, and a few distant relatives who had managed to attend. But where I most wanted to see familiar faces, my parents, there was a void. The judge called my name, and the time had come to take the oath, as I raised my right hand. Repeating the solemn words of office, my emotions surged. Pride, excitement, anxiety, and a tinge of sorrow swirled together. This was the moment I had worked for, yet the absence of my parents left a hollow echo in my heart. When I lowered my hand and took my seat, a quiet reflection overcame me. This was my victory, earned by my perseverance, my resilience, my sacrifices. It was mine and mine alone. Walking out of the courthouse, I felt both exhilaration and loneliness. The applause from colleagues, the nods of respect. The quiet congratulations, they were meaningful, yet they did not fill the gap left by those I had hoped would be there. My mind wandered to the phone in my pocket. Maybe by now my parents would have realized, maybe they would call. But deep down, I knew that this time I had to stand on my own. It wasn't until later in the day, as I returned to my office, that my phone began to ring. At first I ignored it, thinking it was routine work calls. But soon, one after another, the calls kept coming, each more enthusiastic than the last. Old professors, mentors, colleagues, friends, who I had not spoken to in years, everyone wanted to congratulate me. Messages poured in from social media, spreading across networks, and slowly, I realized that my story had touched people. My achievement, though unseen by my parents, had inspired others. The realization was profound. Life is unpredictable, and those we expect to witness our greatest triumphs may not always be present. But the universe has its ways of validating our efforts. I sat there, phone in hand, absorbing the sheer magnitude of recognition. From strangers who had followed my journey online, to former classmates who remembered my struggles, everyone had reached out to acknowledge my success. The joy that had felt incomplete that morning began to fill. Slowly, with a warmth I had not expected in that moment, I understood something essential. Success is not measured solely by the presence of loved ones, but by the impact of our perseverance. Each setback, each moment of loneliness, each struggle I had faced prepared me to embrace this day fully. And even in the absence of parental pride, the world, it seemed, had celebrated with me. If you're watching this, and you've ever felt alone in pursuing your dreams, know this: standing alone does not make your victory smaller. It makes your courage stronger. Every effort, every sacrifice, every sleepless night matters. And if you believe in celebrating such journeys of resilience and triumph, subscribe to this channel. Here, we share stories that inspire, that motivate, and that remind you that no dream is too distant, no goal unreachable, even when you walk the path alone. By evening, my phone had become almost unmanageable. Notifications were relentless texts, emails, missed calls, messages on LinkedIn and Instagram. It was overwhelming, yet in the best possible way. Each notification carried a story, a note of admiration, a word of encouragement. The sheer volume of recognition was staggering. Friends I hadn't spoken to in years shared their pride. Mentors who had guided me at crucial points reached out with heartfelt congratulations. Even strangers who had been inspired by my journey online sent messages, sharing how my perseverance encouraged them to continue pursuing their dreams. One call that touched me deeply was from a former law professor. He said, "I've watched you grow from a timid student into a person who just assumed one of the highest responsibilities in our country. I am proud beyond words." His voice wavered with emotion, and for a moment I felt all the loneliness of the morning transform into gratitude. Every sacrifice, every hardship, every moment I had felt unseen, suddenly felt justified. The calls didn't stop. Each one reinforced a truth I had slowly come to understand. Recognition doesn't always come from where we expect it. Sometimes it comes from the wider world, from people who see our efforts, appreciate our perseverance, and feel inspired by our journey. That day, the absence of my parents' presence was replaced by an outpouring of admiration from unexpected corners. It was humbling and empowering in equal measure. Social media erupted as well. People shared the story widely. She went alone to her federal judge swearing-in, and still made history. Messages of encouragement poured in from across the globe. People shared their own stories of standing tall in the absence of family support. Each message reminded me that my journey was not only personal, it had become a source of hope for others, a symbol of resilience and courage. I realized that the loneliness I had felt that morning had transformed into something far greater. It had become a powerful reminder of the human capacity to persevere, to achieve, and to inspire, even when circumstances are less than ideal. The absence of those we love, though painful, does not diminish our accomplishments. It challenges us to stand taller, shine brighter, and prove that our dreams are ours to claim. As I reflected, I felt a profound sense of responsibility. My story was no longer just my own. It had become a beacon for anyone struggling to be seen, anyone striving to achieve despite a lack of support, anyone learning to celebrate victories alone. And this is exactly why I share it with you today. To show that even when life doesn't meet our expectations, it can still present moments of triumph, recognition, and inspiration. To everyone watching, remember, your achievements matter, even if some people miss them. Your efforts are valid, your perseverance is real, and your victories are worth celebrating. Never underestimate the power of standing tall for yourself, of showing up even when others don't, and of embracing recognition in all its forms. If you feel inspired, if you believe in celebrating resilience, strength, and triumph, subscribe to this channel. Together we can explore stories of courage, journeys of persistence, and moments that prove no dream is ever out of reach. Your story matters, and by subscribing, you become part of a community that celebrates every success, big or small. Subscribe to witness stories of triumph and strength.